Awesome. We are live. Hey guys, it's Brendan Borman back for another 270 live stream. It is Brendan Borman, and with us tonight we have Rick Wytmar. Rick is joining us to talk about Democratic strategy inside the game of 270. Of course, we have a very important election tomorrow, so we'll obviously get into that. But the goal of this video is to talk about all the candidates, talk about different strategies that you can play as a Democrat inside the game. So awesome. Thank you, Rick, so much for joining us tonight. How's it going?
It's going good, hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about some Democrats.
Yeah, awesome. I see you got the Golden State Warriors shirt on. Did you see their new jerseys that came out?
I think they look pretty cool. They look like the old school ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, back when they weren't that good.
Yeah.
But no, it's all good. Here in Missouri, we don't have an NBA team, so it's kind of nice because I can watch games and be unbiased, which I can't say about my politics. But no, the good thing about 270 is that as you know, you can be any character. As a Republican, you can buy into California. As a Democrat, you can go into Texas. Although Texas this year, who knows? We get to find out and see if it really is the lights came on. As soon as I said Texas,
Yeah.
all focuses on Texas. But no, I myself am a conservative in real life. But when I first started playing the game, there were so many Republicans because it was 2016, and like Hillary Clinton was one of the strongest candidates, and then Bernie, like some of my friends are Bernie, and one of my friends actually turned me on to the game, and so I played as Bernie a lot. And I thought, you know what? I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like I have a better chance to play as a Democrat. So a lot of my early strategy came from playing as a Democrat. Who do you say is one of your favorite candidates to play as?
Yeah, my favorite right now is Michelle Obama. And I'm sure we're going to get into this, but I think the reason I play as so many Democrats is I just say they're a little more overtuned than some of the Republicans are, especially with some of the really nice keep up. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But I think there are a bunch of good Democrats that can do a bunch of things, different things very well. I like Stacey Abrams if I'm going to the South, or FDR if I'm going to get California and Texas. So I think there's a lot of good options with Democrats.
There is, and a lot of those options, you just mentioned some of them aren't free candidates. And so just a reminder, it's a free game, and I like that we don't have to like watch a bunch of ads. But if you support 270 and you send like a review on the App Store, oftentimes 270 will do promotions where you can get a free subscription, or there's a tournament going on right now. The code is November, I believe. I'm actually going to set this one out. I've had a lot of stressful tournament matches and games going on, so I'm going to one less thing on my plate. But if you finish in the top 50, you can get some candidates. So that's how I actually earned FDR and Michelle Obama that you mentioned, was participating in these tournaments. So awesome. Yeah, we're going to ask you about some candidates, of course, some specific strategies. But before you do, let me ask you a random question. So your username is the Shark. Why that? And then how long have you been playing the game? I know you were someone who beat me in a high-profile match a while ago, and that's really where I like, oh, Rick, I know Rick.
Yeah, well, the shark was almost an accident. I recently been playing more of the games on the computer, and the computer goes through Steam. So I changed my name on Steam for this different game. We did some animals. I was playing with a team that was animal themed, so I was the shark. And then I realized when I was playing through my RHL matches, and Javier messaged me and say, "Hey, who's the shark?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot, that's me."
And that was one of those chats where you were not allowed to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh gosh.
Anyway, so honestly, I liked it and I kept it just because like I almost wanted to switch my name anyway to something that kind of like not like instills fear, but like, oh, he's the shark. Is he gonna do a huge Florida steal?
Yeah.
So that was the reason I kept it. Yeah. Honestly, that's yeah.
And do you have over 1,000 wins on the leaderboard? No.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't. I'm the rare exception where I don't have a ton of public lobby games, but because I play most of my games through the lounge.
Yeah.
So
Those are,
yeah,
those are community-based games, so you have a code and like a play through a friend, and so those games aren't tracked. I actually, and I think you may have seen this maybe in a group chat that we are in, but I've been tracking my matches since February, and I like this week I'm going to hit my 500th match. I think I'm at 492 matches since February 1st that have been offline, and that makes a ton of difference. Like that's a ton of time, a ton of games. So I do know, like, I mean, it's cool to be on the leaderboard. It's also cool to be respected among your peers. But at the end of the day, it is just a game, but it's a game we love for sure.
So question: when
Yeah,
you're recording your matches, what are you recording each match essentially?
like what kind of data?
Yeah, what data essentially? Yeah.
So it depends. In every single match, I tracked the number of turns because that was something I was TJ Marciniak, the guy who really started the community tournaments. He stressed that I needed to get my turn total down whenever we were talking and really, you know, we were kind of working ideas off of each other. And I was really interested to see because I felt like my games were going longer than what he was describing. But so the turn length is one, the opening moves. So I will track the first turn of my opponents, and I do record. I wouldn't say all of my matches, but I record 95% of them. My phone is completely full of storage. Like every day, I have to go in and like delete like so many things.
Pictures.
Yeah, videos, pictures. But it's good just in case there's a glitch, in case there's a really interesting game or an awesome ballad I can go back and for the YouTube channel. But no, I usually do that. But also, I really, especially like among the top tier players in the lounge, I like to have an idea kind of where I stand, like head to head wise. And actually, with you and I was talking to someone the other day. I can't remember. And I think we played either one match or two matches before I started tracking. So I'm not sure exactly what our all-time series is, but I'm fairly confident that you have a lead right now. I don't know if it's 2-4 or 3-4. But
The big
it's
thing is that I think you're right. I think I'm like one game up. But the thing is that those matches were like, I mean, they're not ancient history, but like in the terms of like me thinking about the lounge, they were still there like 6 months ago. They were back when, in my reference, Tossin was posting and saying who wants a good game. All the tournaments had it started, and
right.
then I remember this because I probably had a lead. But I remember then the RHL started, and then you had gone on a break, and then kind of changed your style, and then went on a huge streak in the RHL. So I almost like, obviously historically I think it might be a game up, but we haven't played since that. So I would almost kind of consider it kind of a clean slate anyway. So
Yeah,
that's my
and
two cents.
we're gonna square off because we're in a lot of things right now. We are in a college
Oh yeah,
basketball tournament, which there was a preseason ranking. I'm excited to talk to Zach Malgazy and Trevor Albert about that. They did a really awesome job of like doing a preseason rankings, and you were ranked what, fourth?
mm-hmm.
I was ranked fifth. So no, but the top five is stacked, and Eric York is number one. And Eric, he's been on an absolute tear. He took down the college football.
Oh, he
Against,
beat Casey.
he
He beat
beat
Jason.
Jason Casey. And that's on the lounge. That was a really entertaining match. Yeah, he won the championship there. Plus, and he beat me in the RHL. He was one of three players this year to beat me in the RHL. I was looking like I wasn't going to lose for a long time, and then I ran into Adam Montgomery and Troy Moore, and but it happens. I mean, but Eric's great, and then I'm trying to stall so I can think of some other names. Javier's in there. Javier's three.
Here's three.
I can't think of who two is right
I
now.
don't remember who Virginia is. Do you remember who
Oh, it's
Virginia
Troy.
is?
It's Troy.
Oh, it's Troy. Okay.
Okay, and then David Robeson. And David Robeson is so underrated. And honestly, the last tournament, TwoSeventy tournament we played, the very first match I played him, and he just had me dominate. He had on turn like 8 or 9, he had like swing states, Old South, and like AA, and I didn't even have a bonus yet. And like I just like I mean everything was just so slow, but he would just edge past me like in every direction. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then finally, like I just kind of saved and saved and saved, and I went for the ballot, like, and it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was I think it might have been a 1 minute timer, but that was, and he messaged me, and I honestly felt bad for him because he absolutely deserved the win. And there were some times like, where it's so obvious, like the only play is a quick ballot, but I had to not only like I had to be the one that close off states and fill in this and I didn't even have enough to double tap. Like I had to single tap, double tap, and I was pretty unrealistic. So shout out to David Robeson. He's also a Michelle Obama player, and honestly, well, let's talk about that first. So Michelle Obama versus Barack Obama, and a lot of the community tournaments are no Obama, so you can't use an Obama because they are deemed to be two of the most powerful candidates of the game. I know you briefly touched on this, but again, why do you think you are gravitating more toward Michelle Obama versus Barack Obama?
Yeah, so here's when we're really going to get into the very much the strategy of it, because I think right now the two most popular things to start with are swing states and Old South, and because Michelle has that swing state, I think she's probably the best candidate in the game right now over Barack, who doesn't have that. And she has a bunch of 20% in like Town and Gown and Latino, and he has 35. But that big swing state really helps you at the start of the game. So that's why I think she's the best. And we can slowly dive into like how you play different matchups and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Michelle, and you did mention Barack doesn't have a bonus. He doesn't have a penalty in swing state, so he gets the 100K. But that extra 20,000 that Michelle gets really can snowball into and like Barack has a penalty in manufacturing, and Michelle doesn't. Barack's bigger. I mean, so Michelle can play as like. It's not ideal, but she can almost play like a Republican as like a backdoor. And then if she's ever able to like flip AA or get, Latino Old South, there's so many ways you can play. But you mentioned the Old South bonus. So what would you say to players who, they kind of ignore the Old South because they're Democrats? Because when you think of Old South, you look at, you mentioned Stacey Abrams. She's from Georgia, where Georgia's an important state in this election. But, for the most part, Georgia hasn't voted Democrat in her life since Bill Clinton was the president. So why would a candidate like Michelle Obama go for the Old South?
Yeah, I think this is a really important point because when I was a beginner and you're looking at the Democrats, they all have penalties in the Old South. But what you don't realize is Old South probably has a slight advantage, but it's probably the best way to get African American. So in order to get that AA bonus, you normally start in the Old South. And most candidates, even if they have a negative in the Old South, will still start there and use the little bit of money that they're getting to build that lead. So that's why I think it's, even if you have a negative, which Michelle does, I think because the AA is so powerful, especially with a lot of the Democrats have +2 African Americans, sometimes the Republicans don't, it's still a great way to start. And I'll go into the fact that you can start swing, but I think that Old South is just a slight advantage to getting to the African American bonus. So.
And you can get Old South in 2 turns, whereas you can get swing in 3 turns. And even though it's a penalty, and again, like a lot of new players will ask me why. Well, if you have Old South, your opponent can't have Old South, and especially if you're going against maybe Well, I guess it depends. I mean, if you're going against another Democrat or Republican, but Republicans especially, and if you do happen to get into a classic Old South battle, you can always pivot to swing states. And so there's a lot of crossover. And classic Old South is the name that I used to describe Louisiana, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. And mathematically, that's the most efficient way to get it. But when you're opening up against someone who knows that, and you know that they know that, what's your mindset go through? Do you think about possibly pivoting to Florida? Do you think about maybe opening up in Georgia, South Carolina, some other states that are Old South AA, but not swing states where you might not clash in Virginia? What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, so especially with a lot of the community tournaments, not so much if you play public lobby or public tournament, but if you're playing the community tournaments and you know somebody is going to start in the Old South, there's a few prominent guys, the Casey, the George Fries. I sometimes like to do what I call Old South and bail. Well, I'll do a couple smattering of pips in a bunch of those states, maybe some in Georgia, maybe some in South Carolina. They'll hopefully get clashes, and then I'll pivot to something else immediately, straight away. Probably if I want to, probably swing states, but if I want to battle for the AA, New York is a great option. And what that allows you to do is it slows them down a little bit because hopefully you clash. And B, you can always re-enter those states because now you've put some money into them. So that's what, if you want to battle against it, but you don't want to do it, for example, that's something I like to do.
And would you recommend, I know I would, but would you recommend saving some cash if you go that strategy? Because remember that, you only get $250,000. And, like if you're going to take that step to go New York, you probably don't want to get it contested. So the best way to do it would be double pip, right? 300K.
Yeah, so I think if you can do it where, remember that if you save 50K from the turn before, you'll have 300K on the next turn. So I would just say that normally if I'm going to do the Old South and bail, I'll do the 125, which is, as you said, the Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, and I'll see what it clashes. And if it clashes, then I have a little bit more than enough to get New York and start on that town and gown. And what's super key though is if you miss, for example, and your opponent doesn't go Old South, you have to be ready and have to have a strategy to go for the South. Because if you do that combination, like you said, you can get it in the second turn and then go from there. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
What's the one thing? So like if you're hoping for a clash in the Old South, what's the one thing you don't want to see? I know what I would say.
I would say what I think I've seen people do recently is like they'll do like the whole Old South, where they'll go into every state, and that allows them to like go into Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, XYZ, and that allows them to, like, let's say you only went to the 4 states at the beginning, that allows them to still get the Old South, and they only have to go into like 1 or 2 contested states. So yeah, I mean that's a lot more money, right? So you're doing some compromise, but that's one thing I've seen for sure.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that used against me. I'm not someone who does that. I don't mind clashing early on. I know that New York is a state we're going to talk about here really soon, but and I've made several videos about this, and like especially with Michelle, like I would love to clash with someone in New York, and then like I don't mind working from Florida and the Old South and whatever. I used to be more reliant on New York, and I still love New York. Like it's so critical to all the Obamas, but Democrats in general, you kind of have to have a solid base. And, we've talked about swing states, and swing states is such an important bonus because it's 100,000. The other bonuses are that are 100,000 are the high tech bonus and the African American. So those 3: swing states, high tech, and African American. But you really have to have a core bonus, and that core bonus can be swing states. It's risky. A lot of people play from town and gown, and then the natural transition to high tech. When you first started playing, was that kind of what you started learning? Was that strategy, was the town and gown the high tech?
Yeah, especially because Hillary is pretty good. That's probably the recommended free Democrat, and then Barack Obama obviously has those bonuses, and that's really good because like Obama's perfect for that state because he has all the bonuses there, and there are a lot of the AA Latino, like there are a lot of the good bonuses. The problem is that we were both part of the choice when we were coaches for a bunch of up and coming players essentially. And I played like that because we knew one of our opponents was going to have a similar strategy. And what we found a lot of the time is that it's just a little too slow. That's why I say, like, I mean, it's good if you're a beginner, especially because you get the town and gown bonus to defend New York, which can sometimes be hard defending the big states as a beginner. But generally, when I would play it, if I went New York and right away to California, and they had Florida and Texas, they'd have a lead over a bunch of those state bonuses that are in between. And if I did New York and tried to battle for AA, the fact that they normally had Old South was more powerful than Town and Gown because Town and Gown only works on Arizona and DC, and Old South works on all of the states in the Old South. So it's definitely something. It's definitely a strategy I don't use as much anymore. But it's still really like New York is a great place for Democrats to go after, a Florida, or if you're trying to pair it with California. And I will say that the town and gown bonus, I've used it against people who do, this is a little more deep, but national groups, because it's super nice to have that free town and gown to defend New York if they go into it. Anyway.
Absolutely. And the national groups, I'm glad you brought that up. As a Democrat, you have the labor and environment, the women's movement. Obviously, RBG became a free candidate, and she's very popular for the.
Wait, RBG's free?
Yeah, update your game, bro.
You know why? Is because I got her from one of these things, so she's always been good for me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. No, they TwoSeventy made her a free candidate. So yeah, I'm a cheapskate and don't have a subscription right now. I did win it. I did place in a tournament, and as soon as they divvy out prizes, I'll be getting my subscription back. But right now, no, I'm rocking with. I have all the free candidates. I have Barack, FDR, and I'm playing in this tournament where you have to be a specific. It's the state tournament with Dennis Muxlow. You're in that, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
No, okay. I know there are some other players, but it's kind of interesting. So I'm Elizabeth Warren, who is an awful candidate in my opinion. Like she's got lots of penalties, and but the catch is you have to start your first turn in the state that she's associated with. So I thought, oh, great. Oh, Massachusetts, that's great. I'll go town again. No, she was like went to college in like Oklahoma. So I have to spend my first turn in Oklahoma.
Oh my God.
You have free reign on like where else you want to go. But and there are some players like that are more limited. Like you have to go to New York or like, at least it's a small state. But like, I'm playing against some top level players.
And you throw $20K away.
Yeah, and it's like, that's in the beginning of the game. That's a huge deal. Like if they get Arizona and they're also going for swing states, that's an advantage. Elizabeth Warren has a negative 40% oil and gas. Like I'm not gonna do that. So anyway, national groups in general, do you have a philosophy on Democrats? I mean, I will say Republicans, in my opinion, have stronger national groups overall. Mm-hmm. I'm still not usually a national group person. Is there a situation or a candidate that you would maybe go that route?
I've played it once or twice. It's really fun to do. I'm just not very good at it. I will say though that now that RBG is free, you can get that women's movement and that labor, and it gets you almost 400K a turn, which is really strong. And then essentially what I'm telling people to do is go watch an Eric York match where he does one of these things, because he's really good. He's basically the pioneer of national groups, and essentially because you get so much money per turn, you can go after the really big states early. Now you have to kind of play carefully because you need to play for the long game because you need this investment to pay off. Because when most players going for the States, they get EVs from that, and you don't from the national groups. So that's what I'll say. I think it's really fun. I honestly should play it more because it sounds like a fun way to play. But honestly, go watch an Eric York match. Really
I love it in multiplayer, and I know
yes.
I know it and again, it's so frustrating to be on the losing end of like especially like a bigger match. I was just in an RHL match where one of my players, Adrian Brown, had like $2.8 million. I mean, whoever he just wanted to sabotage, like that person was screwed. And there are different players who have done that. With Bill de Blasio, he has a really high labor and environment. I think I made a video on labor and environment day instead of Labor Day it's an investment, and generally speaking, especially in 1v1, like you're sacrificing that start, and that's not something that you and I, when we play, we usually are battling over swing states or New York or something. So awesome. So you were talking about Town on the high tech and how it is a little bit slower. High tech in general, that is a bonus that I find myself having more than African American. I'm not usually an African American like specialist. I don't know what you even call it. I will say though that the more top level players I have played, I have learned the importance of maybe not me getting it, but delaying them to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I've had to pivot to high tech, and I really don't like playing out of California. I think it was Supin who. I think it was the very first time I'd ever seen George Fry on like a stream, just annihilated. Sorry, Supin, annihilated FDR as Jeb Bush. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's Jeb Bush. Like, and I know Supin tried to get high tech out of California and kind of backdoor FDR, but I don't know. Like, it's something that I like to transition from counting down to high tech. They're in multiplayer. They're like Siraj one of his favorite things to do is get California, get oil, and get high tech, and just kind of sit and wait. But how do you do out of California? Is that something that you do often, or maybe in a multiplayer if you have to?
Yeah, it's good for the multiplayer because it's a lot harder to attack than a Florida or New York, just because of straight up the cost. And if you get a bonus that high tech or oil, it's harder to attack from there. The only way I've seen it really done successfully, and I think it's actually okay strategy, is if you basically try and get it's Richard Alfeld who's done it once or twice against me. He goes into California, he goes into Texas, and he does like 1 or 2 pips turn 1 and 2, and then he goes to make sure you don't get Texas on turn 3. He'll pip into Texas, and then he'll slowly, and then he'll slowly build up that oil, because that basically guarantees you oil and ag, and then 1 state away from Latino. So it gets you those 3, which are really nice, and it's hard to attack. Now, it doesn't get you the 3 big bonuses, which are swing, AA, and tech gives you an advantage. But anyway, if you don't really like somebody stealing your big states, I would recommend that. I think it's actually pretty legitimate. And the interesting thing with high tech is, and why I don't know why a lot of people don't go for it first. I'm sure it's just a matter of logistics. But I find myself normally having either California or New York, and then it's more of a battle for high tech, because even though New York is 50 cost less, they normally get Massachusetts and Utah with their counting down. So that's almost about the same. And then you're battling over Pennsylvania and Michigan and Maryland and Washington.
Counting down that you can use for New Hampshire.
Right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, and so I mean that kind of makes up a little bit of the difference from California. That a lot of games have come down to that what you just described, where one person has California, one person has New York. If you could choose one, which side would you be on? If you knew, like, let's say you're playing Elon Musk and I was playing Mark Cuban, we're both going for high tech.
I'd probably go New York because that town and gown is almost inherent to New York. You know, it's kind of like Texas in manufacturing, where it's pretty hard to get manufacturing out of Texas. So I'd probably go there. But yeah, I mean, they're both about even. And what I'd say if you want to get tech is PIP one, just try and get a PIP into all those tech states, even the Connecticut and Delaware, and try and play from there. Because if you slip one state and you're uncontested in some other ones, that's a great way to get high tech. So
For sure. No, high tech is one of those bonuses where you're gonna have to make a decision. It's gonna be uncomfortable. You attack in like Massachusetts, you defend in Washington. Maryland is a very popular state where it's just kind of that mid-tier cash wise, and it adds up like you don't really feel it right away, but no, that's interesting because I've had this conversation with several other top players, and I feel like I'm in the minority. I would also rather be in New York than in California, but I think other people who like from a purely number standpoint, I think can justify California. But
yeah,
I also like to have the be able to pivot. I can pivot to AA. I can pivot
yep.
to town and gown, like you're saying. So that flexibility definitely comes into play. Now, for those of you who are watching and don't know this, I'm gonna challenge Rick off the top of his head here. What's the number that you have to get mathematically to get that high tech bonus? Do you know it?
Oh,
And this may all change with the election. They may come out with a new map.
yeah.
But
I honestly hope they add a new map. They don't take away this one because it would be fun to have two versions. Anyway, I don't know the number.
Actually, and Nathan Williams and I just had a stream earlier today, and he said the same thing. So that's interesting. So, I definitely think it'd be cool to have like old school maps too. Where, but
Yeah.
but no. So let me ask you this same question in a different way, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Like we all have.
No.
Like when I first started playing, I didn't even know the numbers, even though I was good. I knew different state combinations, and
Yep.
if someone took away my Pennsylvania, which is 60, then I can just add Washington, which is 25, and Maryland, which is 35. And so, that's the same. It replaces 60 for 60. Um, do you have like a favorite like minimum high tech combination?
Um, first of all, I have my images on my desktop where you have all the costs, and as I opened it, I remembered it was 316, but I can't get credit because I opened it anyway. Anyway, it's 316 for high tech. I'm just not sure I have a favorite combination. I'd say out of New York, you can grab a bunch of the AA states. Because if you have AA, you can go after Michigan,
Maryland,
Maryland,
Virginia.
Delaware, Virginia. Yeah,
Virginia. Troy Moore he's from Virginia, but he'll throw the hammer down on a cost per dollar in the bonuses associated with Virginia. It is one of the states that is closed off the fastest, just because how valuable. Like on a per dollar, if you're going to overspend somewhere, like you can at least justify it in Virginia. One of my favorite combinations is California, and then Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. Those three plus California. That's high tech. But also, if you go California, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and then you have to go Connecticut. If you go New Hampshire, it doesn't work. So those are some of the high tech bonus or combinations, and you can play around and mess with if you're watching this. But yeah, that's high tech in a nutshell. To me, and this is just my opinion, that AA and town and gown, those are your meat and potato bonuses. We already talked about swing states. Like that's not a Democrat, that's not really a Republican. It's just so important to the game and the balance. But Latino is a bonus that is very popular among Democrat, like getting a bonus. I'm trying to think of who has maybe the highest Latino bonus. I mean, Barack Obama has a high one, but
AOC maybe.
Yeah, AOC. And so when you think about the Texas, California, plus any other state, that's one of the easiest things to remember. However, that's not the majority of how I get the Latino bonus. Is that
Right.
something you find yourself in the same boat?
No, and this is a good point to like the really good players know this, but for newer players, not only is it Texas, California, plus one other Latino state, but it's if I often go New York, California, then you get Illinois, and then plus one more Latino state. That's why I think Illinois is such a. I think Illinois is probably the most powerful non-Big Four state. It's because it has all those bonuses, but it's also kind of the key to Latino most of the time. So yeah, and just yeah, like I said, remember that. I mean, Texas and New York, or California, New York, you need Illinois, and then one more state. And obviously, you can substitute Illinois with New Jersey and Nevada. People don't often go for those, but it's more expensive and it doesn't get you all the nice bonuses because Illinois has AA and agriculture and manufacturing. So food for thought.
That's more of a multiplayer strategy for me, because you're likely going to have it uncontested. Whereas Illinois, like you're right, Illinois is not only the key to Latino, but it's the key to export, the key to ag, manufacturing. You're going to have African American. It's just such an important bonus, and like cost per dollar, it's a good bargain also. So yeah, definitely prioritize Illinois. And that's also a state, like, even if you're not even going to spend there, like if you just want your opponent to like overspend or defend, put 1 pip in Illinois, and it's gonna make me overspend. Like I have, and people, Troy Moore and some other players made fun of me for saying this, because I have a lot of I'm like Donald Trump. I have a lot of a lot of comments but no substance. I'll say, I'll never defend Florida, and then sometimes I won't. Like, I don't like to over defend Florida. I'll admit, like, it's so frustrating because it's such an important state, but like and you can win without Florida. It just makes it so much easier. But Illinois, it just feels like in the right time in the middle of the game or the end of the game, like, you can even be behind and like low spend or zero spend, and they have to defend Illinois. They have to defend Pennsylvania and some key states. And all of a sudden, they've got $1.2 million and you've got 400K. Oh my gosh.
And the liquid value.
Yeah. And so, again, every game is different. You kind of have to have an eye on the total EVs locked in. But I'm with you. Illinois is one of the most important states. And honestly, I usually don't have it. I wish I had it more than I did, but I don't prioritize it, and I should. So, oh well. Trying to think if there's any other things with Latino. I do know that Arizona is a critical state. It's a battleground state. It's swing, African American, Latino, town and gown. I mean, those are all Democratic strongholds, and Republicans, fight over it just as much as Democrats do. Do you find yourself closing Arizona off kind of like a Virginia, or do you? What I've been doing lately, and it's worked for the most part, is like if I have town and gown, I'll just use my town and gown and take 2 turns to close it off. But and I say, if someone takes it, they take it. But like going back to what you were saying with Illinois, if you know in your mind that you've already closed off Arizona, it just takes one of the 2 big states, and then Illinois, and assuming you've got New York, if you're playing from New York. I don't try to prioritize Latino. It's one of those, though, if I have it, I feel pretty good about where I am in the game.
So. Yeah, I mean, the big thing is with a lot of, like, we kind of talked about with tech, we didn't mention it with oil, like, you can use Latino to, go into all of the big states, and then if you have it under control, you can save it, and it'll build, and it'll build, and it'll build, and the other player's like, oh no, he's going to attack, and then you either can go for it, which should be a big steal, or you can make them spend. So that's why Latino is big. It's also one of those things that you can't get right away, though, because you have to, generally build it up, so.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to get it, like in the number of states, when we've talked about the big 2+1, but if you go New York, California, and then Nevada, New Jersey, that gets it, or Illinois, plus another state. Plus, Florida pressure. Well, let's just talk about Florida pressure while I'm thinking of it. If you have Florida with swing, but your opponent has AA, that
Mm-hmm.
makes it scary. If your opponent has ag, Latino, and that just you're in a
Export.
position export. You're in a position where you're not going to be able to defend it, or you're going to have to close it off. Um, I don't know. What do you do with Florida?
Yeah, oftentimes, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think that Florida and the Old South, like I said, are the two places where I think the best places are to start. And Florida, that means a lot of people starts there, and that means there's often a lot of attention there. And I think ideally, what I would recommend to people who are starting is that they're not spending if they have a buff under control like swing states or Latino, they can save a little bit of it, maybe save some cash. And then if you think your opponent's going to make a move, you can spend it real quick. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's again 270 is kind of about reading what your opponent's going to do and is he going to defend it? Is he not? So that's one of the things that you kind of gain with experience as well.
Yeah, and and people learn that. I think you have a really good knack for that. And I'll be honest, I'm struggling where to put you in the power rankings that we're going to vote on. So for those of you who don't know, we do the community lounge. We do have power rankings that it's just for fun. Like there's nothing. It's just bragging rights. But think of it like college football. So it's kind of like a what have you done for me lately, but also like kind of a general sense of how good a player is. Rick is really good. There are some names at the top that are just kind of cemented in my mind because, like, you got your Jason Casey's, the George Fries, the Javier Rodriguez. But no, make a case for me. Why should I put you in the top 5 or top 10? I think
Well,
you
I'm gonna
were,
be humble and I think because right, I was pretty happy with where I was before because
which was
during the
weird.
last
Sorry.
rankings, I don't know, I was like 14-ish, which I was pretty happy with. Because but that was like a high point because right then I had just won the 270 classic and then it went away, which honestly I mean it was disappointing of course, but now I can say, well, I'm the classic champion, like
Yeah.
come and challenge me. Oh wait, you can't,
Yeah.
so but that was kind of a high because I'd beaten a bunch of good players to beat that, and then since then it got taken away, and then most of the high profile matches I've been playing are RHL, and my RHL record looks so bad because I lost the first 6 or 7 games I played in the RHL, and then I changed up my style and I brought a lot of those and I brought it back, but I didn't make the playoffs, so I don't think I have a fantastic case. I just say,
Yeah.
um, oh gosh, I would just say like outside of like those really those like top 5 players that I would say Super Tossin, and all the guys you mentioned, the Casey George Fry. I would probably give myself a pretty good shot against anybody that's not really in that top 5, and I think the matches represent that. And honestly, yeah, I mean, I think yeah. That's my case. There you go.
That's a good one. No, and I think I've talked about this every time. It's I do it like in tiers, and I'll put you on the spot again here in a second. So
That's
but
okay.
but no, when I think I had myself ranked like closer to 10, and I came in closer to 5. And that's great. I mean, you want to be humble, but it's also like everyone has their own perspective. Well, I beat that guy, or I've never lost this guy. But every game is different. It's like I have a huge sample size against Javier. He and I have played a bunch, and I'm on like a 4-game winning streak right now, which is pretty awesome. But like he's also kicked my butt, and he can beat people like Jason and George way easier than I can. It seems like. But like when I was doing my tier, like I could substitute anywhere from like 6 down to like 15, and like I wouldn't bat an eye, and then you got people like Guillermo, who are up and coming. We work with the Choice. Patrick Gaz, was he on your team?
Yep, he was Team Shark. Yep.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he's beaten me once or twice. We played several times. We played 5 or 6 times already. We're in the same conference in this basketball thing, and he's also a Michelle Obama person. Trying to think, but the power rankings. So, is there one person? So, there's a kind of
Yeah.
3-part question. Okay, is there one person who you would consider your rival? Is there one person who you consider your equal, who good kind of place like in someone's mind, like to compare? And then is there one person like I'd better be ranked higher than this person?
The first two I'd probably say just because I was doing so well in the classic and we battled and we had a little bit of smack talk, which was all for fun, but people got excited for it. Was Altfeld, Richard Altfeld, and honestly just a great guy and was running the MFT for a while.
He's a great commissioner. He ran a multiplayer league several seasons, very successful, very organized, and I know he's had a busy schedule, so he's not as active as he has been in the past, but definitely a good guy for sure.
Yeah, so he is like what I'd say. I mean, he was definitely like my quote unquote rival for the classic, so that's where I put it. And he's definitely a player of equal caliber. I remember I was playing him for something else. I don't remember what it was, and I got matched up with him, and I was like, oh, he's a multiplayer player, easy money. And then he proceeds to, I don't think he whooped me, but he definitely won, definitely gave me the business. And then so I was ready for the next time when I came around, and that was fun. And yeah, I just brought up the list for the third question. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because you say somebody like David Robinson, and I bet he's gone a lot better. But I think I've had to play him. There was an NFL league that I lost to Supa in the championship. It was exactly like it sounds. He was kind of simulating that, and I think I beat him once or twice, and I didn't think he was to that 6 to 15 tier yet. So if I had to say I'm above anybody, and nice guy, I mean, I can't wait to
bring it on. Yeah, no, we're setting up the next prime time. No, I got to vouch for David. David, I would definitely put him in that tier.
Okay.
I know you have. I know you have beat me, and you've given me. But David, I think every time I play David, he probably should have won or didn't. Like I've gotten some some pretty good matches with him, and I think that I will say if I have not a negative, but if I have there's some players who have their set strategy, and like you think of Larete, and he's going to go New York, and he's going to David is kind of like that, and so I think that if he wants to take that next step, maybe being a little bit more versatile, but he's pretty dang good at multiplayer. I mean, he understands. I think he just has a thing that works, and like why not? If it's not broken, why fix it? But no, I actually my own rankings, I made a video on it last month. I'm going to do that again. And people were like, oh, you've got him way too high. I'm like, I don't think I have him high enough. But it's tough because, everyone has their perspective on who they've beaten and, played. Is there a player that you've never lost to that's really good? Like the best player I've never lost to is.
Well, I thought you were going to say never beaten.
Oh,
and this kind of goes into that conversation though as well, where I think there's people play different styles and people match up better against different people. Like I think I've always played Tossin well. I've only beaten him that one time when I went on the run to win the classic. But I think of the second to last time he picked California and New York maybe, and then I spent big, and then he quick bounded me, and I was so crushed. And then I think we had a bunch of other close matches. So, for example, him, I think I play well, but against somebody like Supan, who's just like, in my mind, is just like the master of saving, and will accumulate these huge amounts of money, and then
He
I
didn't
can just
used to
never
do that.
compete.
He did. He's
Really?
definitely changed. Yeah, yeah. So Tossin, he and I used to play every single day. So you talked about earlier that that mindset of like, who wants to play a game? It was always me. Like I think we had like a 2 month stretch where we probably played 80 times. And he probably like honestly, I think early on, like I had the advantage. Like I think I beat him two to every 3 times he played. And then it kind of got to the point where I wouldn't say predictable, but he's just very calculated. And he even if he's behind, he'll pivot. He knows, he doesn't go all in. Like he always lives to fight another turn. And
Right.
sometimes that works out for him on the ballot. Sometimes it doesn't. Whereas Supan, I mean, he almost plays the player more than the numbers, and he'll save. He'll behavior. Are you going to overspend? Are you going to pivot and just put you in these compromising situations? And honestly, going back to the power rankings, as far as like people, like Supan's one of my favorite people in the lounge. He's like 1 or 2. But like players, I really have a hard time because when he wins convincingly and looks like a genius. But there are some times where it's like, you'll be watching a stream and like, what's going on? But he always, even if he does that, it's a good game. And
But that's where the perception kind of comes in, right? It's like, because he has so consistently like taken me apart piece by piece, I think in a much higher regard, and because you have a better record against him, you think of like, I don't think as
oh yeah,
I
and
think George is worse than him, and you were thinking the inverse, right? So
yeah, no, and he's beat. Don't get me wrong, he's beat me plenty of times. But it's just and there's some people who have their matches streamed a lot more, and so
right.
if you're watching this and you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, we've been in the lounge long enough. We've been in part of communities to see like these names that have consistently played and been really good. So hopefully that's you someday. I know like Rebecca Gill is an up and comer. We have always call him Eoin, but it's Owen.
It's Owen.
Oh, it's Owen, yeah. There is I mentioned Patrick. There's Dennis Muxlow. He and I played a 54 turn game about 2 weeks ago. That was pretty fun. It was a stalemate for national groups, and I think we had a stalemate for Texas. But he came at me with like I don't remember what it was. It was like some 70% thing. I'm like, I'm not giving you this women's movement or whatever it was. I'm just gonna keep flashing. But yeah, no, it's super awesome to have our matches streamed. And I think you're gonna start streaming some matches, aren't you, at some point?
Yeah, I'm talking with Javier about it tomorrow, and that's one of the benefits. I mean, obviously, I'd love to be in the playoffs, but I'm not too broken up about not being in the RHL playoffs, because for those who don't know, the wildcard system in the RHL puts you in a multiplayer match, and I like playing multiplayer. I'm just not very good at it, so I'm happy not to be in a position where I'm like crushing myself because I didn't win a multiplayer match. So anyway, I'm out of it, and I'll be. And yeah, I mean, I have a pretty specific time, basically evening time PST, where I can stream. I'm looking forward to streaming some matches.
That's awesome. Well, if you happen to stream one of my matches, don't make fun of my especially multiplayer. I tell you what, I've had the worst luck with multiplayer. I actually I was in Richard Alfeld's original MLL, and I didn't win. I think I was runner up, but for a while I was regarded as one of the best multiplayer players in the lounge, and I kind of got away from it just because I was trying to get better at 1v1, and like I could control more. But it is very satisfying to win a multiplayer match, and especially when you're going up against some high quality players like a David Robeson. Richard Gadd is really good at multiplayer. George Fry. So
yeah.
But so yeah, so you can be a part of the stream team. That'll be fun. Do you have any predictions for the RHL. I'm going to make a video with Javier, get the official predictions, but maybe some guys you've played this year who have impressed you, or Tossin won season 1 with the Stone, and we're going to have a candidate draft after the election to determine who. So we don't even know what candidates we're going to use yet, but I've got a couple names I'll throw out at you.
Yeah, I just pulled up the standings to give them a look.
So
I
Adam Montgomery is one of my picks. He and I, so for a while, I know he'll watch this video. Good guy. He's one of the people that I used to say, "Oh, I've never lost to Adam Montgomery." Can't say that anymore on like a 3-game losing streak. But no, he's really dialed in. He took down Jason Casey today. I think that was the Republican versus Democrat tournament hosted by Daniel Smith in a 2-game series. So yeah, no, Adam, he's definitely top tier, and he finished in my conference, in my division. He was first, so he's going to have a really strong candidate. And then obviously Troy Moore and I are probably going to square off. That'll be a good match. But Eric York, I know I mentioned him earlier. I mean, he's going to be tough to beat, and I think that I think that he did squeak in. I'm not quite sure on that, but if he did, I don't want to play him.
Yeah, I pulled up the RHL rankings really quickly. And yeah, I was gonna say, if I'm gonna put money down, if I was to do money down on someone, I'd probably do Adam. He has he's not in the multiplayer. He has that the first round buy, as I'm thinking of it. And B, like, I don't know. I mean, I think I was a little surprised to see him at 6 or 7 back when those power rankings came out, and then since I don't know. I mean, I know why, because I had never played him, but I played him once, and then he's just gone on to win a lot. So I'd probably say he is one of the strongest chances. And if I had Tossin, I'd probably go second.
Yeah, no, Tossin. I mean, you got to respect the defending champion, and until someone knocks him off. I do know Tossin is a little bit, I wouldn't say rusty. I wouldn't call him rusty because he knows what he's doing, but he's taken a little bit of time off from the game, and he's been trying to get back in the grind before the RHL. He's been playing who's up for a practice game, who's up for and I was gonna play him and do some content, but I got to thinking, you know what? Maybe I don't want to play him. I want to keep some of my secrets to myself, but because he and I have not played in probably 4 months or so. And the best tournament I ever had, like the 270 tournament, I went 78-0, and then I ran into Tossin and I lost. Like, no. So no, I love Tossin. He's a good guy. But thanks for those predictions. I've kind of talked about everything in the game that I've wanted to talk about. I know we've got this election coming up tomorrow, and we did do this in the Republican video, so I gotta keep it fair. As you may or may not know, I am voting for Donald Trump. You can share who you're voting with. You don't have to. If you have predictions, if you have bold, hot takes, you want to bring the fire to this video, anything. What are your thoughts when you think of election tomorrow?
So one thing that I'm reminded of before we jump to the election is, if you're a new player and you've made it to this far in the video, thank you on behalf of Brendan, by the way. But second, we talked about how to get a free subscription. And I know in the past they've given out free candidates for a review or something. And so if you're a Democrat and you're listening, you're like, oh, I don't have Michelle Obama, or oh, I don't have FDR or Stacey Abrams, which are probably my 3 favorite Democrats to play. I would write them a review and I would say, don't give me a subscription, give me Michelle Obama and whoever else you want. Because I think once you get the 1 or 2 candidates, you're golden. Or a Republican who you might want. As far as the election goes, yeah, I'm from California, so I obviously doesn't make me a Democrat, but I am a Democrat. I vote for Biden. I'm pretty close to the center, though. I mean, and in California, it doesn't matter anyway. I was playing with this 538. It was kind of like a pick'em kind of thing, and the only one I'm having trouble with is Florida, which I can just say full send and pick I'll say Florida's going blue. That gives, I mean, I know.
Was Texas going blue in that same model?
No, Texas is not going blue. But I mean, that leaves it at, and I know, David, who did you have on the Republican side?
With Daniel Smith.
Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith said Trump was going to win, and I mean, I'm not sure if you call 100 electoral votes a blowout, but right now I have it 319 or 320 to 218. So, I mean, that's my prediction. It's 100 EV Biden blowout per se.
So 2016 states that Hillary won, plus what?
Yeah, why don't I share my screen?
Sounds good.
Let me quickly do.
And while you're doing that, you did mention the filling out a review. Another way that they can also earn candidates, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel at 270 videos, I'm gonna be honest, I don't spend anything out of pocket, but all these tournaments that I'm in, I've actually accumulated gift cards from the game, and I have to date given away over $400 worth of Amazon gift cards to players. So participate in some of my Wacky Wednesday tournaments, some other things, and you never know, you can win. I've had it's a lot of repeat winners. I'm trying to get some new blood. So
you'll get there, yeah.
But anyway, as soon as I get to 200 subscribers, I think I'm at like 170. I'll have another $25 giveaway. So we're all.
There you go.
Yeah. Awesome. So we got the map here. Looks like now is the shade. Is that because of it's a toss-up state, or is that because it's more likely to go?
Yeah, all of the ones there are toss-ups, and it's this 5-3 gate pick-em essentially. It's kind of like a choose your adventure. So I just picked all the states that I think will go blue and red. Florida is the one I kind of struggle with because I think it's a toss-up, but for the sake of this, it makes it a nice, 100-point electoral vote lead. But yeah, I mean, I think Biden's going to win a lot of the big swing states that Hillary lost, the Wisconsins, the Pennsylvanias, the Wisconsin and Michigan. So yeah, and that leads to about 100 points. So yeah, that's my prediction.
That's awesome. Let me ask a couple questions. So with this map, what states do you see like correlated together? So if this is your baseline, let's Arizona is a state that's blue that in my model I think is going to go red. Honestly, there's a state on there are 4 blue states that I would have red, and probably one of the red states I'd have blue. And I'm not sure. North Carolina to me is such a toss-up. I know you have it red. You want to talk about North Carolina and what you expect from that state?
It's just a traditionally red state that I am a little bit less bullish on per se. And I'd say, especially if I was on Trump's strategy team, I would be targeting, he basically needs Florida and Pennsylvania. And I think in terms of, like you said, states that would go, if this, if you need a push and they're all kind of correlated essentially, you definitely look at Arizona and then maybe some of the Rust Belt states, Michigan, Wisconsin. So I think all of those kind of 4 states are the big crucial ones, and I think you'll see similar results on the Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
What about Ohio? Do you have Ohio squarely red?
Yeah, I think for a while, I think the Democrats' logic was like, Ohio's too red at this point, we're not going to contest. And I know that's kind of been back a little bit, but no, I think Ohio is still going to go for Trump.
Can you do me a favor? Is this interactive, this map?
Yeah, it is interactive.
So what happens if you flip just Florida? I can do the math, but if you flip Florida, that brings this number down to 290.
Mm-hmm.
Now the map is redoing something here, recalibrating.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's supposed to be like recalibrating, like if certain states are left, what the odds are, but I put all the states in, so it doesn't really matter.
Gotcha.
But like also Pennsylvania for it too, and then it's like right on the edge. You can see
Oh man.
it's 270, 267. So he really needs both of those states. Now it's two. Yeah. So
So now this is where this is where Maine and Nebraska can really come into play.
I might have done those wrong too. So for all, I don't know
No,
what Nebraska second is. So
Nebraska's second is Omaha.
right, but what are the odds that it goes?
It's,
You don't know.
the latest polling I have seen is, I would say it leans blue.
Okay.
I have I have some relatives who live in Nebraska. Their family like pretty much all voted for Trump last time, and they are all voting for Biden this time. Um, I do know several people who are the opposite, who voted for Hillary and now are voting for Trump. It's crazy. I think it's my age. Like, I just turned 29. I have a lot of college friends. It's hard for me to get a read.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
but um, but no, from polling and from just listening to people who have more knowledge, and I would venture to guess that Nebraska goes at least a little bit blue with the one. Now
But here's the question for you, right?
yeah.
If let's say he gets Pennsylvania and Florida, it looks like he needs one more state, and this is with North Carolina, Ohio, and Georgia, Texas. Where do you think that last maybe state or multiple states are?
Well, if you want to see my full blown map, all you have to do is keep turning some more states red.
Let's do
So,
it.
so I think Arizona is going to be red. I do think that it's not going to be by much. I think it's going to be well within the margin of error. And, I do think that Arizona is going to be a state that is going to definitely be on the winning side. I mean, I think there's going to be some, that maybe not like, for sure, but just with the correlation and stuff, the Latinos, the suburban turnout, the, different factors that go into it. Iowa is a state that I think very easily could go blue. I was talking to Nathan, who voted for Biden, and he voted for Trump the first time also. So he is looking at it, through a different perspective, and he thought that Iowa was pretty safe for Trump. If you look at the county by county, I think there are 99 counties in Iowa, and only 6 voted for Hillary last time, and he still only won by it was like 9 points or 8 points. But I think that's going to regress a little bit. There are a lot of counties closer to Illinois, closer to Wisconsin and Minnesota that are more Democratic. And I mean, honestly, it's just going to be like who shows up to vote. If it's,
Yeah.
and I think that Iowa is going to be a reflection of, I think, I think that a lot of Democrats are talking about South Carolina, or more specifically like Georgia. And those states are in play. I think those are definitely going to be swing states in the next election, like 100%. But Iowa, to me, there's a lot of white men, working class men in Iowa. Those are going to be states. So to answer your question, I honestly think that Wisconsin's going to go red. Call it gut feeling, call it something.
Shoot your shot, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan is. I think Michigan is going to go to Biden.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, really, really interesting. I mean, it could come down to Pennsylvania, just like a lot of people are predicting. And for the sake of my prediction, I have Trump winning, but I very easily could see like a scenario where Trump runs the table with everything he has to do and still doesn't get in because he doesn't win Pennsylvania. Like he could win North Carolina, win Florida. Georgia, like a Georgia flip or something. So honestly, I don't think that Minnesota goes to Trump, but I think that I think it's one of those states, like if he is like doesn't win Pennsylvania. So if you take Pennsylvania away from him here, but he gets, so that gets him to 268. You know, I think that Nevada is probably fool's gold for Trump. I do think that he's going to be. I don't know. I think that's going to be a conversation on election night where he needs something. Where's it going to come from? Is it going to come from Nevada or, Colorado or New Mexico? And I think those states are not. Virginia, he hung around in Virginia last time, but the people in the north closer to DC, and that vote usually comes in later. I think like 75% of the vote, and he was winning by like 5%, and then like it flipped. So, like, honestly, this would probably be my Trump loss map, which would be what's the count here?
Looks like it's 270 and 268. I don't really know why they're giving us half a point, but yeah, I mean,
which is insane. I mean, could you imagine it coming down to this?
or it coming down to Nebraska and Maine's flip districts. So yeah.
So I don't know. I do think that all scenarios are in play. I honestly think that you probably the least likely is obviously a Trump blowout. But like, what do you call a blowout?
I mean, Minnesota, if he gets, if he's picking up a lot of these states and he's picking up Minnesota, because Minnesota hasn't gone for Republican, there's a statistic out there, but he hasn't gone for Republican in a long time. Like, if he gets Minnesota, because I know Minnesota's closer this year, but traditionally it hasn't been. Well, so that would be a blowout.
If there really is a red wave and he got Minnesota and Michigan, like that's probably his high point, is whatever that is. And to me, that would be a blowout as far as electorally. That's the least likely scenario.
It's almost 100 EVs, so yeah.
Yeah. I do think that Biden is more likely to blow Trump out. But I think it's going to be a closer. I do think it's going to be close. The popular vote, I haven't seen a poll lately. I assume Biden's going to win by 5 points probably nationally. I don't know what the number is, but it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
I'm happy with that. I'll take this down real quick.
Yeah. No, you're good. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I just say I'm going to start running a little tournament in the lounge based on, and I'm going to plug everybody into a chess rating system. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to be able to track how, we've talked about how our records against top players, and I'm excited to have that record, starting to be recording some of those matches and have those records on hand. So I'd say, I think there's 2 spots or a spot left. I need to check my messages after I get out of this, but if you're interested in that, shoot me a message. The post should still be up. I'm calling to that. I'm excited to get started on that. Subscribe to Brandon Bowman's YouTube channel. It's the only other plug.
Awesome. Well, so and they can reach out to you on like the Facebook Lounge on Messenger. Would that be the best way? Cool. So Rick and it is Wytmar, right? It's like
It's Wytmar. So Wytmar. Like it's W-I-T. Yeah.
Oh, with this whole time didn't correct me, but no, there are lots of names. We've talked about David. And I think I even said it wrong earlier. Robison. It's Robison.
It's Robison?
There's no N. It's not Robinson. It's Robison. And it's not Supin, but like that's the easiest thing. So I apologize. You can call me Brandon. Just don't call me Shirley.
Honestly, like when you're in school, the teachers would call me Wytmar. So for people in the lounge to say, what were they saying? Whitmare? Anyway, they're getting the second part a little bit off, and I was like, oh no, like Mar, like Taco Del Mar or whatever. So it's funny to hear how different people get it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and there are people, and the cool thing, there are people who play this game all over the world. They have different languages or different like words or pronunciations, and like I've had some weird conversations with people like, how do you say your name, or what does that mean? I get some message saying "good game, champ" or "chump." Like, is that a compliment, or is that what does that mean? I don't, but no, people, and I love the lounge. I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's a civil place. It can, I mean, we'll see. Let's hopefully get through this week. And as always, you know, I've been saying this with all the other videos. You know, if you guys have not voted yet, and you guys are seeing this, and the polls are not closed, please use your opportunity to vote. If you want to vote third party, even, you know, it does not matter where you live. Don't let someone tell you or intimidate you how you should vote. And your vote, one vote can matter. I know there are different laws or different rules about who can be eligible for debates or funding in the future, or just, you know, if you're tired of like a two-party system. I know that's a conversation I've had with people, you know, and you know, I've pretty much always voted Republican. I did vote Democrat one time in my life. It wasn't for it was the primaries. This just goes to show you how much I hated Hillary Clinton. In 2008, I, you know, requested a Democratic ballot so I could vote for Obama and not for Hillary. So, have you ever voted Republican?
Well, I'm only 22, so I've only gotten to vote in 2 elections, and I haven't. Although it's fun because I'm, you know, I know I live in California. My mom's a Democrat, my dad's a Republican, and I'm much closer to the. I mean, I'm much closer to the center. I'm still a Democrat, but it's fun to have those conversations. So,
oh, for sure.
Anyway,
and it's cool to have it with you know, a conversation where you can talk about the issues and not make it like a slugfest. Did you happen to see that 4-quadrant quiz thing that was going around in the last? So it was like,
I didn't take it though.
That's okay. So like I took it, and like it says left, right, authoritative, and like libertarian, and like there was the 4-quadrant in like the very middle, and like you went one thing over and one thing down.
Yeah, I saw
Everyone
that.
else was like way over here. And again, like I know those things aren't like those are not like the end all be all. I'm not saying they're not accurate, but it's just one quiz. But it's really interesting to see, like, my family, I had them take it, and they were like extremely conservative. And you know, we're our own people. We get a chance to voice our opinions and with a vote. And so anyway, tangent over. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on and spending some time. I hope everyone enjoys this video. If you do, hit a like. And if you have any questions for Rick, leave them in the comments. And maybe we'll have like a follow-up. But until next time, thank you, Rick. I will catch you guys in the next 270 stream.
Thanks, Brennan. Bye, guys.